Great. First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to join you and take time during your board meeting to make the presentation. Our purpose is to introduce EDP Soccer to those of you who aren't familiar with it. Following the proposal presentation, we hope that you would give it further consideration as you normally do through study groups or working groups, however the board normally goes about its business. The presentation will be available to everybody on the board after this, so I'm going to go relatively quickly. I'm not going to read word for word, but you'll have the full presentation as a board member when we are completed. It's an inclusive proposal. All Florida Youth Soccer Association affiliated leagues, clubs, teams, players are recognized in the proposal. And right up front, just so you know, and you'll hear me reiterate this during the presentation, EDP as a national affiliate of US Youth Soccer is all in with US Youth Soccer. And that means, therefore, that we're all in with the state associations that we're fortunate enough to work with. Simon, you want to go to the first slide, please? So who is EDP Soccer? We are, as a company, focused on the management of soccer activities with the vision of providing competitive solutions so that youth soccer players can reach their athletic, academic, and personal potential. Company's been in business since 1999. As I just said, the company is a national affiliate of US Youth Soccer. And one of the responsibilities that we have for US Youth Soccer are to manage the 4 National League conferences in the East region. That's 4 out of the 13 conferences in the National League. Obviously, you're familiar with the National League because you manage the Sunshine Conference. EDP has also been granted the opportunity to host the 2021 Eastern Regional Championships. Although that doesn't affect your teams in Region 3, EDP is excited to be able to do that for US Youth Soccer and all the teams that qualify in the East region. The 4 of us on today's presentation are soccer people. I'm not going to go through what's written here. I'm just going to say that so that you're comfortable, if you will, with us. We all played the game, and among us, we went from youth play to college play, and Simon was fortunate enough, good enough, to play at the professional level. We've all coached at different levels, from youth to college to professional. Again, in this case, Don at the college level and Simon at the professional level would lead our small pack, if you will. We've all refereed. We all have children who have or are still playing and playing within state association leagues and state association, obviously, recognized clubs. And we all chose to stay with soccer, a game that we love, for our professional careers. So we are soccer people. I'm not going to claim that we experience all of the things you've experienced, but we're probably familiar with a lot of them. In addition, I'll mention the EDP Foundation. Peter Gooding, who is the former athletic director and men's head coach at Amherst College, and also former president of the United Soccer Coaches, which used to be known as the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, is the chairperson of the EDP Foundation. Continuing in terms of who is EDP, but more now focusing on what EDP does. EDP, again, primarily is focused on administering leagues and tournaments and showcases. In terms of leagues, EDP manages over 5,000 teams in leagues across 13 state associations. It's a vertically integrated structure. And by that, what I mean, it is a pathway for teams to graduate from their local leagues into more competitive levels all the way up to the National League conferences. EDP primarily focuses above the local leagues into the more competitive levels. And again, the vertical integration, the earn your place, in other words, earn the level of competition that your team is capable of, is really, really important. And how EDP implements that is to be data driven. And what that means is that teams are evaluated season by season to see how they've done against the competition that they have currently been playing against, and therefore to identify where they should be placed for future competition. The emphasis is obviously on a low goal differential. We think it's far better for teams to play in close games than it is to beat teams by a great deal or to lose by a great deal, obviously. This involves also sensible travel. One of the things that we'll discuss as we move through this presentation is the concept that the more clubs, teams, therefore, that you have in relative proximity to each other, the better opportunity an organization has to provide the appropriate level of competition for players. It's just common sense. That's not rocket science. The odds are that if you have a larger player pool, I don't mean a club or team player pool, I mean for an organization, the more opportunity you've got to place teams appropriately. And the more teams you have in relative proximity, obviously, the better the travel situation is, depending on the competitive level. And that's one of the primary goals for EDP with other state associations, and in making this presentation, is to help Florida Youth Soccer Association increase its membership. EDP has a customer service orientation. And again, as I've already referenced, EDP manages for US Youth Soccer for the National League conferences. Although it's not specifically relevant for this presentation, EDP does have experience and expertise in organizing and running tournaments and showcases, more than 30 a year. We're particularly proud of the fact that through Don's leadership, over 1,900 teams in over 12 events were able to be serviced in this COVID-19 time period from July until last weekend. EDP, despite very strict regulations in New Jersey, was able to host multiple events. And if any of you were on calls with US Youth Soccer, you saw some of the materials developed by EDP used and disseminated by US Youth Soccer to all state associations that were interested. Again, I've mentioned in collaboration with US Youth Soccer, EDP Soccer will host the Eastern Regional Championships in 2021. And EDP also hosts co-branded events with US Youth Soccer, such as the US Youth Soccer EDP New England Conference Showcase, which will be held this coming Memorial Day. So EDP supports US Soccer and its state associations. And as I said a few moments ago, one of our primary considerations, one of our primary goals is to increase membership in US Youth Soccer, and that means in state associations. In 2018, EDP Soccer brought over 3,500 teams that were in its leagues into US Youth Soccer leagues in multiple states. Since 2018, EDP has continued to help teams transition from multiple US club soccer leagues back or into, possibly for the first time, US Youth Soccer. In New England, approximately 300 teams have made that transition this year into the New England Conference of the National League and also into the New England Club Soccer League, which is a local league. In Eastern New York, the Eastern New York State Association, EDP helped bring back, if you will, about 1,300 teams that were previously in the New York Club Soccer League, and then also helping the Connecticut Junior Soccer League, bringing teams that were in the Connecticut Club Soccer League. New York Club Soccer League, Connecticut Club Soccer League are U.S. Club Soccer affiliates. EDP helped in the transition so that they would come back into Eastern New York through the Cosmopolitan Junior Soccer League. They would transition, if they were competitive enough, into the North Atlantic Conference, and they would, again, at the local level in Connecticut, transition into Connecticut local leagues. In New Jersey, U.S. Club Soccer, if you will, tried to make a comeback. That didn't work. EDP Soccer helped transition teams from the New Jersey Club Soccer League and the Alliance Soccer League, which were associated with U.S. Club Soccer, back into EDP local leagues. And then if the teams were competitive enough, into the Middle Atlantic Conference of the U.S. Youth Soccer National League. And in the Virginia area, from the Virginia Premier League, which was associated with U.S. Club Soccer, EDP helped approximately 200 teams transition to the Northern Capital Soccer League, which is a local, if you will, state level league, and into the South Atlantic Conference. So what's the importance of this? We've mentioned earlier, there's importance in terms of what it allows to happen to help teams get the appropriate competitive level, but increasing membership also helps state associations with what I'd call, for lack of a better term, lack of better vocabulary on my part, ancillary programming, additional programming. More membership obviously means more revenue for state associations, and it increases ODP participation, it increases state cup participation, more ability to budget for top soccer, more ability to budget by the state association for referee and coach education. So increasing, obviously, membership, and in the case of other state associations, not uniquely Florida Youth Soccer Association, if we can bring clubs and teams back from U.S. Club Soccer, it enhances the ability of the state association to function really well in terms of servicing its members. This is a letter in support of the cooperation that's existed between the Connecticut Junior Soccer Association and EDP Soccer. I'm not going to read it. Again, you'll get a copy of the presentation. You can read it, but it's testimony to the positive working relationship that's been developed and the success that that cooperative relationship has had in enhancing the programming for Connecticut Junior Soccer Association. We'll illustrate part of that here, and that's the decline in teams participating with U.S. Club Soccer and the increase in teams participating with Connecticut Junior Soccer Association. This doesn't include the New England or the North Atlantic Conference National League teams. This next letter is from the president of New Jersey Youth Soccer, Jess Yeager. Again, it pays tribute to the working relationship between New Jersey Youth Soccer and EDP. An illustration of how that's proved to be beneficial is the next slide, which looks at state cup comparisons. A couple of years ago, the U.S. Club Soccer State Cup was over 1,000 teams. It's now decreased to less than 400. And in sharp contrast, the New Jersey Youth Soccer State Cup has increased from less than 600 to over 1,000 teams. So the working relationship's been very positive. So our purpose, and when I say our purpose, I mean not only EDP Soccer's purpose, but hopefully, depending on how you view this proposal, our purpose collectively, EDP Soccer supporting Florida Youth Soccer Association, is to provides some fresh perspective and insights based on experiences to reimagine the competitive structure in Florida. It's to address the issue of declining membership with a professional turnkey solution, again, that has been tested and proven successful with other state associations. And it's to provide connectivity and pathways which allow clubs opportunities for their growth and sustainability, which obviously in turn provides opportunities for growth and sustainability for Florida Youth Soccer Association. The challenge, again, without referencing specific numbers, is that U.S. club soccer has been increasing its player registrations, and we would like to stem that. We'd like to reverse that trend in cooperation with you, and that means that we want to work on player development, promote player development through competitive and positive playing environments. Again, going back to this concept of the more players and therefore teams we have within the Florida Youth Soccer Association, the better opportunity we have to provide appropriately competitive pathways for those players and those teams. That involves obviously team and club development. Assist clubs are providing, again, this development and competitive pathway so that every team in every club has an opportunity to reach the level of competitive ability and interest that they have. Overall, it's to create a community. It's to get clubs that are like-minded, that we listen together, we adjust together, we repeat the success that we've had together through the leadership of Florida Youth Soccer Association. We, if you decide to allow us to work with you, are supportive of you. We don't run, obviously, Florida Youth Soccer Association. We are, again, a solution to help you address the needs as you see them and try to make sure that you are successful. One of the ways that we do this, and it's proven very successful in other areas, is to establish club leadership advisory groups. The leadership in state associations varies, not surprisingly, by state association. Some are league driven, some are more club driven. We know that the players themselves are organized primarily through their clubs onto their teams. So we think it's very important to get club leadership advice, if you will. So we work with clubs to get their insights, and then obviously those insights are in turn passed on to, worked with, if you will, the state associations. The solution, again, this is going to sound reiterative: pathway to participation, vertical integration, make sure that all clubs, all teams, all players understand that they have the opportunity to play at their level and grow to additional competitive levels, more advanced competitive levels, if they want to do that. It's the united support of Florida Youth Soccer Association and the league's program that you currently have and how it will evolve according to your direction. It's to support and reinforce local leagues as an entry point to competitive soccer. Again, when you get the presentation, you can look at the letters of support from Connecticut Junior Soccer Association, New Jersey Youth Soccer Association. EDP works in collaboration with local leagues, and that's very, very important to having an inclusive approach. EDP provides marketing support to educate new members and also old, don't mean by age, but existing members about the concept of the pathway to participation and its benefit to everybody. And EDP Soccer tries to energize membership through exciting communications initiatives, and you can go on the EDP website, if you will, or we can send you examples of highlighting clubs, storytelling around players' successes, ones to watch. In this case, it could be players, it could be players who've graduated into college, it could be assistant coaches, etc. What our hope is that EDP Soccer's impact increases collaboration and overall rapport amongst the Florida Youth Soccer Association membership through a common goals. It's to increase player participation. It's to retain existing members and attract new members. It's to increase participation in Florida Youth Soccer Association's overall programming, again, state cups, ODP, top soccer, coaching education, referee education. It's to raise competition at all levels, going back again to a concept I've already repeated now multiple times. The more players, teams, and clubs we have involved with Florida Youth Soccer Association, the more opportunity Florida Youth Soccer Association has to provide appropriate competitive play for all players and their teams. It's to support and reinforce local leagues. They are the starting point. They are the base that we need for the game. They're the base that we need for Florida Youth Soccer Association. And they need they need to understand that there is a pathway for their teams, if you will, to graduate into more advanced competition if that's what those teams, players want to do. They don't have to do that. There are certainly wonderful examples of U6 all the way to U19 and even beyond. I'll call it recreational. Don't mean that in a negative or derogatory way. My club, I was responsible for recreational soccer, and I was proud to do that. But it was also important that our teams, if they wanted to graduate into more advanced competitive levels, had that opportunity. We want to reduce the risk of losing players, teams, clubs to U.S. club soccer. We want to provide more stability for Florida Youth Soccer and its membership. And again, going back to this culture of earn your place, where you as a player and team want to play and you're capable of playing, we want to make sure that Florida Youth Soccer Association provides that players and teams and ultimately clubs don't have to go to another platform to find that appropriate level of competition. In summary, EDP looks to provide, when it works with state associations, a turnkey solution, a professional organization. Our staffing, we're fortunate to be able to have professionals in place and able to staff up to a degree that most state associations are not able to do. If Florida Youth Soccer Association decides, yes, we would like to work with EDP, work through the details of this very broadly expressed initial presentation, work through the details as they're specifically applicable to Florida Youth Soccer Association, then we would be able to provide immediate activation as we've demonstrated with other state associations. Again, a pathway to participation is what we're emphasizing. And this is an illustration of that pathway. It starts, as we've said, with the local leagues. It's inclusive, boys, girls, all of the youth ages can be accommodated. And then it extends out to a metropolitan level, a sub-regional level, and a state level. You can see we've already recognized in that, if you will, some of the statewide competition levels that are available. The progression, the pathway, if you will, develops according to competitive level, and that naturally or normally, if you will, and naturally evolves into additional travel if players and teams want to do that with their parent support. And then ultimately there's the pathway into the national connection, which in Florida is the Sunshine Conference, which leads into the opportunity to participate in National League showcases and additional national pathways. That, in summary, is the presentation. Again, we would collectively, the four of us on the call for all of EDP Soccer, would like to thank you for the time to present. We're enthusiastic if we get the opportunity to work with Florida Youth Soccer Association, and we don't want to take up too much of your time, but we're more than glad to try to answer any questions that you may have, either now or afterward. Again, we are sensitive to your time, but thank you very much for our opportunity to present to you directly.